Alrighty, and we're on.
Here we are.
Coach, how are you?
Very good.
Back for the second time on this podcast.
I think it's gonna become something more
regular.
More regular.
Yeah. No. So it's been a bit busy since the last time you came on. I think last time was like late last year or middle of last year or late last year sometime.
Yeah.
But so much has happened since then.
Wow. Yeah. Crazy evolution in many aspects, and the team have done so good.
Yep.
And looks like this year we're really gonna move to the next level again. You know, we're having a lot of amateur fighters who they're gonna turn pro at the end of the year.
Yep.
Some of the biggest names now in the amateur scene, so it's very exciting.
Yeah. Well, let's start with IMMAF, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's probably been one of the biggest things that have happened since then, and I think it's worthwhile talking about IMMAF because in terms of organisations for mixed martial arts, they're probably the premier, amateur organisation in the world, right? Because it's, across all different countries. And IMMAF, basically, the World Championships is bringing together, it's almost like the Olympics of mixed martial arts, right? So still technically amateur level, but it's the highest level of amateur mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, IMMAF, as you say, is the Olympic for our sport. Is actually, that's what IMMAF is trying to do, is try to regulate MMA and get it to the point where becomes an Olympic sport, and the numbers doesn't lie. You know what I mean? It's so many countries who are now they recognize IMMAF like their government body, and the International Federation is the maximum level of competition an amateur athlete can access. After that is only one step and is moving pro. Look, for example, Muakaev or so many other fighters, Jack Shore and so many others, Amanda Ribas. They won the IMMAF World Championship and now they are on the top of the level in UFC. And wasn't a crazy achievement for Australia and for our team. So we have Fane Mosquita, who actually was in your podcast, etc.
Yep.
And she's the first ever senior gold medal for Australia.
Yeah.
And for who doesn't know, win the tournament is something very hard. You're not only fighting one day, you're fighting multiple days. And it's so many adversity you have to get through, carrying weight every day. And you are in enemy territory. In this case, wasn't much enemy because it was Serbia. So we had it was crazy. We have supporters from Serbia, and because I was the coach of the Italian team was supporting us. French Polynesia and Australia, and everyone was so far from home, but felt like home,
Yeah.
And that was beautiful. And shout out to Fane, which is not only an incredible athlete, but her dedication, her mindset, the way she's almost like the Rocky story for female. She came to the World Championship 2 years ago. She lost on the first fight against the former world champion. She lost by an armbar. She had tear his ligaments and was a crazy journey to go back on her feet. She trusts the team. She trusts the process. We had one goal, one vision, and she had the hardest bracket of the tournament. In her first fight, she fought the American. The second fight, she fought the undefeated world champion, 10-0. And the third, she fought the Swedish European champion. And after she fought Spain, who have multiple IMMAF medals. And the most satisfying thing, she didn't take much damage. We prepared stylistically to being able to win fight by fight. And on top of that, to be able to perform on the best, and she didn't lose one round in all the fights, so that was the biggest win,
Yeah. So I think for people that don't know how IMMAF, especially at the World Championship level, is run, you basically fight once a day, and it's an eliminator. So if you lose the first round, you're out.
Yep.
But if you continue on, it means you need to make weight the next day. It means you need to fight the next day, potentially up to 4 or 5 times until you get to the grand final or gold medal match, so to speak. So from that perspective, it's a real, it's a very difficult test, because not only it's you might win the first match, But what happens if you end up, taking some significant damage and you can't continue?
Yep.
And I'll give you an example of this from an Australian promotion. So shout out to Silverback Fight Series. But when Silverback was on, they did a 4-man eliminator. And so, basically it was a bantamweight eliminator. They had 2 guys compete early in the night and then another 2 guys compete, and the other 2 were meant to meet in the finals as the lead up in that 4-man Grand Prix. But one of them suffered a cut and couldn't continue on, right? So these are like such it sounds like something so small, but in a fight, anything can happen, right? Yeah. So, whether it's like you might win the fight, but you're eating too many leg kicks, yep. And then the next day, your leg's tenderized, you can't stand it, or your movement's compromised, and that can cost you, down the line. So, from that perspective, when it came to preparing the strategy and things like that, like were these all the kinds of considerations that you're putting into the game plan for your fighting? Yep.
Exactly. Look, as you know, you're a huge part of the team, not only as an athlete, but in the coaching team. Like, we're really preparing everything to the tiniest detail. Everything we do is a big study behind, not only in terms of like in terms of like technical aspect.
Shout out to the boss man at USC Jim Rockdale. He's
Number
one, huh? Bringing us
the coffee.
We've got the coffees here, but for those who don't know, obviously, put your face in, boss man. Yeah, the boss man's here, and Renato obviously coaches out of here at USC Jim Rockdale.
Yep.
A lot of people actually, will travel down. Orson came on the podcast recently as well, and he's traveling from Hornsby to come and train with you.
Yep.
Athletes often, sometimes
from
I turn
Canberra,
up to
from Rockhampton, Northern Australia. Cooper came down.
Yep.
And we have such a great team, and as I say, we prepare everything to the tiniest detail. Not only, I feel like in today's game, it's still so much gap in the preparation, and a lot of teams still divide like the sport in different martial arts.
Yep.
Which, in my opinion, MMA is a sport itself. Of course, you have to have you have to invest your time in every single aspect. But where we made difference at the World Championship, because we spoke about Fane, but we also have a guy, Ismail, who he made an incredible result. Like, he's training only for 6 months. This guy fought as in his second fight, the pound for pound junior best athlete in the world. He went to a split decision, and for many eyes he won that fight. In my eyes too, the guy tried just to take him down. Hold him down, and Ismail was grinding his way up and making damage and rocking a few times. And that's what I want to say. If in 6 months you prepare someone, of course, we call him the freak for a reason. He is an extremely talented athlete, but if he doesn't have the right direction, we have seen many talented athletes not being able to do anything in the sport,
Yeah.
And if you do something in 6 months and you become the third in the world, that's mean things are done right,
Yeah.
We could have done the gold also. He's still mad for that, but we know
things happen. We can always get that one back.
Yeah, we're gonna get this one back for sure.
I want to sort of go off on a little bit of a tangent here, because we've got some pretty young, hungry guys. Hamza just made his debut at MMA Showdown 12.
Yep.
Shout out to Craig Jen and Brian Ebersol. Great event. That event is always such a well-run event. And for anyone who hasn't been to, one of the local events, like, that is a great one to go to.
Yep.
It's at North Leagues in Camaray. I'm sure there's, Craig and Brian will have multiple shows throughout the year. But I want to talk about Hamza. We call him the sniper. And, there's something about these younger guys, and there is a slight. I'll say I want to pick at this particular common thread, is that obviously we have a stable of of Muslim fighters who are very they're obviously very proud of their faith, and they're very faithful in terms of like how they view religion, and they're very clean in terms of how they live their lives. And I think there's something to that about having that belief, right? That makes them even more dangerous, so to speak. Not dangerous from the sense of
in a positive way.
Dangerous in a positive way, yeah. Right? Because they have this conviction They
Yep.
carry this belief in them
Yeah.
that God or Allah is with them, and it gives them strength, and it gives them this belief
Yeah.
in who they are, and it gives them a very grounded feel in terms of how they approach life and
Yeah.
training from a day-to-day perspective. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, the things I try to do as a coach, I of course study like the evolution of the sport, the technical and tactical aspect, but also at some point we all know all the best team in the world have that. Like everyone, when he's on the top, have a high level of skills, high level of preparation. But what's gonna make the difference is like the mental aspect. And I think the biggest part, mainly like a Muslim fighter, etc., it's like having structure, mental structure, and know even through, for example, myself, I believe in God too. I believe like it's something I've created all of this, and have the beauty of to doing what I love every day and be blessed like that. Is a part of the process of putting all what you have in your daily routine and etc. And I think that's very interesting. Many guys these days doesn't have any structure in terms of food, in terms like of lifestyle, and I think when you educate someone since a kid's like through religion to respect some sort of rules, because like you have to do that. If you succeed in life, you have to be able to structure your life in the way this success can hit you. Everyone works hard, but it's what you do in terms outside the box to make it more possible, right? Yeah. And I feel that, and that's the interesting point also for us as a team. Everyone think about Anthony, Buds, Jack, and all of this. Like the point is like this new generation of MMA FFT who's coming now, it's very dangerous. And all these kids, who have the opportunity to see Percy perform, Anthony, and they're ready because they're very connected to each other. This is why we are a family fight team. Already, even if they don't have any fights, through coming to the fight, watching their best friend perform, this is something I always say, if you want to become a good fighter, you have to come to a show. You have to ask your coach, can I be in the corner with you because my friend is fighting? Can I be the third one just holding the bucket? Because you're going to live an emotion same as you have just competed. And you're going to go in your mind and you say like, oh, I experienced that. Now I understand so many things in terms of emotion, because you are anxious in the corner, same as the guy who's fighting. Yeah. Maybe more sometimes, Maybe you get...
Depends on the fighter. If you got somebody like me in there, then you get very nervous.
We can chill a little bit more. But the point is like, you going to do something very stressful.
Yeah.
And what's important, you have to simulate that closest possible to what you're going to experience.
That anxiety.
That anxiety, like no matter what, even if you have the most chill fighter in your team, the young guy, if you're going to come, this is why, at the World Championship, I've tried to bring Buds in the corner with me to leave some sort of legacy, because I've done probably just last year 200 corners. I don't know how many I've done every weekend, 2-3 fighters. So for me, I can do that like with my eyes closed, and because I know the work put behind the scenes, and I know my fighter executing the game plan we prepare all together. But for this young guy, having an experience to be in there in a really stressful moment and see how I act, see different ways to approach, it's gonna lead him to the fight in a so much easier way. For example, that's the reason why I bring Buds to the Hamza fight in the corner, because he's gonna fight soon for the title.
Yep.
And this is already one extra fight for him.
Yeah.
Being there, he actually seen the advice I'm giving. He is saying the same things almost before me, and was really interesting, because this means okay, he is switch on. He's there. He knows what exactly we prepare and what we have to do. And I observe all of this.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to say. Like the new MMA FFT generation is what really is gonna make a statement, and the one coming after, the youngest guy, Hadi, Stephanie, and all these kids who are doing MMA since they're 11, 12, it's gonna be interesting. Yeah.
It's very interesting. You know, even like talking to Orson, right? Like Orson, you know, by the time he's competing, you know, did his XSC debut, he's already got how many years of jiu-jitsu experience under his belt, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it's one of those things where, you know, when somebody's grown up with it, it can become a very different thing, you know, and the only potential negative is that, you know, if kids face too much pressure when they're growing up with it, is that they burn out. Right,
exactly.
So you know, I think to put it in fair perspective, you always got to think about, okay, you know, when you put like these crazy expectations on somebody, especially like if they're good, right? And you know, I can think of an example. I won't name them actually, but like there was people in the jiu-jitsu scene will probably know who I'm talking about. But like there was a set of twins, you know, who were really really good at jiu-jitsu, and you know, were traveling, you know, across to the States and everything else, and we're tipped to be like the next best thing. But I think, you know, I don't know exactly what they're up to nowadays, but, you know, it seems like they're out of the jiu-jitsu scene. And, you know, part of that could be because, you know, you've invested so much of your life from 12, you know, to 18 or whatever. And then when you suddenly get some autonomy, you realize, oh, maybe this isn't exactly what I want to do. You know, perhaps it's, and I'm not saying this is their situation, but perhaps it's like, you know, the parents are just pushing so hard because they want their child to be something.
Very interesting, yeah.
But perhaps the child themselves, like when they grow up, they realize, oh, that's not exactly what I want.
You know? I think the sport, no matter what you do, and of course MMA is a very strong addiction, you know, but not only MMA, like combat sport, you know, because like it's very hard if you do any combat sport to accept to lose, you know, because it's something is gonna burn you inside.
Yeah.
So you try to train and perform on the top of your ability, right? And I think it's very important as a coach to understand where you have to push and when you have to let it go. For example, I have an extremely talented athlete in the team. Okay, he's in heavyweight, should be a light heavyweight, who, you know, he's in the jiu-jitsu scene. Well, he just won a belt. And I'm going to say about him, you know, a few things like Tito, you know.
Yeah, Tito, yeah.
Tito, it's 2-0 amateur. He always fought the best. And since his debut, you know, no one ever have given him anything easy. And was so much, I can say, eyes on him in terms of jiu-jitsu, and also when he transitioned to MMA. I remember when he did his first fight, everyone was excited for that fight. Everyone knew this kid is gonna do something special. But what I try to do as a coach, I've tried never to, like, this is what everyone else was doing, no? Because they seen his aura, they feel he's something special, they know he's gonna do something great. But I try to make him understand it's not only about the result, the performance, etc. It's more like this sport have to be something you lean on in your critical moment of the life. You have to enjoy it. You have to be able. These kids have like when he was a kid, you know, he did his first fight and he had like so much experience.
Yeah.
You know, which sometimes is not the best things because takes away the taste of and the pleasure of do things. This is why when he fought the first time and second time, I make say, Coach, I never felt like an emotion like that. I've done hundreds of jiu-jitsu fights, but that was something different, you know. And I understand like I cannot play here. I cannot go in there and be like unfit. Like his last fight, he wasn't 100%. He still put an amazing performance, you know. And we've been able to switch the game plan during the fight and like use that experience as advantage on like critical moments, you know. And I think mainly some coaches, they don't put enough effort to understand his athletes, you know. This is why I for a long time I left him. Like he's only 20 now, I think maybe 21, so young. And for 1 year, you know, he moved in Canberra. He was experienced things in life, and everyone was telling him like, oh, you don't have to work, like come training. But everyone have to do his own choice, you know. And everyone have to understand, like, you're never gonna understand the mistake of something if you're not the one who experienced that, you know. People can tell you like, don't worry about the work, like just keep doing jiu-jitsu, you're gonna have, like, yeah, it's easier to say, but people need experience. People need to fail. People need, it's not even failing, it's like you have to understand what you really like. You know, when
Yeah.
you are on the roof or maybe doing concrete and you are like, oh well, maybe jiu-jitsu is not that bad. You know, maybe MMA and all of these, like if I can put some, that's the hardest sport in the world, but for me it's not harder like getting up at 5 a.m. and like working in construction and all of these, you know.
Yeah.
Because I do believe all of us, you know, like to be a fighter you have to be a special person. End of story. Like all of other sports, yeah, you have the competence, but to be a fighter, it's something different. If you bring back, in the old days, being a fighter, it's almost like 1,000 years ago, on the line, defending your own country, your family, to live or die. You know, and in a war, it's thousands of people fighting, right?
Yeah.
But not many are the one on the first line.
Yeah.
And the fighters of today are that guy on the first line. When everyone talks and say like, oh, you seen this guy, Buds, or you seen this guy back in the day, Percy, and all our ancestor was there on the first line fighting and surviving. And this is why we came all the way here. Tito, Jack, and all of these. The people on the third, fourth, or on the line 20, they're talking about these guys on the first line. You see this guy, he killed hundreds of men by himself, you know.
Yeah.
That's how it is, you know. And of course now everything is more regulated, but we have still that spirit, you know. And that's why, for me, I'm not teaching my people to behave as a fighter. I'm teaching them to behave as a martial artist, you know.
That
I want them
mentality.
You know,
Yeah.
That's we go back on the things you asked me before, religion, you know.
Yeah.
A martial artist have structure, and he knows where, you know, his firm point in life. You know, martial arts is almost a religion. It is, you know. You put so much effort on something you don't know where it's gonna bring you. You're gonna have so many down. You have to downfold. You have to keep believing in all of this.
That's it. The thing that I think martial arts gives people most, if you can get into that mindset. So I always say martial arts is a lifestyle, right? So you make this life choice that you're going to be a martial artist. Anyone that steps into the ring, steps onto the mats to compete, or steps in the cage, anyone can be a fighter, right? Just go put your name down. You might not have any experience. You go in, have a fight. Like, you know, that's the reality, is that anyone can become a fighter. And I think, you know, there's a great allure, especially when you're a young male full of testosterone, that you go, oh yeah, I want to be a fighter. Yeah. And then, you know,
I want to do UFC. I have so many message me, Coach, I want to do UFC. First of all, it's not UFC, it's MMA. And UFC, let's work maybe 10, 15 years and we will see.
Yeah, and then, so it's like, you know, but then after they have that first experience, they realize, oh, there's a lot more to this, right?
Wow.
And a lot of people, you know, they're one and done. You know, they do one fight and that's it.
Yep.
Whereas, you know, a martial artist makes this choice that, hey, okay, this is actually a structure in terms of how I want to live life. Yeah. Right? And the good thing about having a structure that has discipline and also has suffering in it, because, you know, training is suffering, right? And, you know, all we've done is we've just conditioned ourselves to actually enjoy and embrace this suffering, right? And I actually view it as you're very fortunate if you can have this suffering, because there are so many people that suffer involuntarily, right? Through circumstance, whether they've got a broken home or abuse, or even if they're just grown up in the wrong country. Yeah. You know, they were born in like a poor nation, a third world country. You know, they have this involuntary suffering that, you know, they're born into these circumstances. So I always look at it from the perspective of, you know, I'm so fortunate that for whatever reason, you know, I ended up being, you know, born in Australia, or for whatever reason my parents came to Australia. All these people, we're here, you know, in this specific environment where we can choose to have voluntary suffering.
That's amazing.
As opposed to just suffering for the sake of suffering and not knowing, you know, and you know, some people will go, oh, why did, you know, God do this to me? Right? They look for people to blame. Whereas, like, you know, at the same time, there are other people, we've been given this gift, right? That
exactly.
Like, we can either squander and say, you know, oh, I'm not interested in martial arts. I don't want to do anything hard. I just want to live an easy life. I want comfort, you know, and you never achieve anything, or you never really push yourself because you always just want to be comfortable. Whereas on the flip side, I don't think that's what life is about. I think it's about, you need to experience these really immense highs and immense lows.
I love the way you analyze that because, we are blessed to have the opportunity to suffer and grow in still a safe environment. It's, as I say, like during the years, the skills are something, if you are in the moment, in the present, and you see the sport evolving, and if you are in every single show, what's happening as a coach, you're gonna grow,
Yeah.
And that's something which is beautiful because you don't grow only through the experience to see, but through the evolution and the needs of your fighter.
Yeah.
They ask you,
Yeah.
what they feeling, how they see in the fight. I have a very unique connection with them. It's not only, I always say to them, we're not fighting 1 against 1, we're fighting 2 against 1.
Yeah.
And you can see that in execution. I love when you was commentating a showdown and you say something like not many people notice, but the coach is asking him this, he's executing straight away. And the point is, where you seen the value of what actually we're doing? It's not like I'm asking something and after a bit he's executing. It's like almost like signal, boom, and he executes straight away.
Yeah.
And that's so much work behind the scenes. And another things I want to say, how we spoke, I read for my 3rd time Sun Tzu. I read it because I read Sun Tzu in 3 different moments of my life. When I was a kid, when I was trying to figure out if what I'm doing is right, and now when I know what I'm doing. And now is the 3rd time is the most interesting one because
the art of war.
The art of war. Same as we talked about before. 1,000 years ago we probably will be in line fighting for life and that
and love
and families and all of this, everything on the line. This is what I try to explain to my fighters. When you compete, they think about, what we're gonna do after. Is no after.
Yeah.
Like that's the day when you can fight with a light heart and loving the blood in your face and loving to compete and with no stress, and you can fight also with tension. Like every fighter is different. Like for example, your approach, Bud's approach, Percy approach, everyone is different, but it's not tomorrow. The day of the fight and the competition, that's the end.
Yeah.
If you are able to do that and you put 100% in the performance on that day, it's gonna be tomorrow for sure, but you have to think with this mindset. And talking about back in the day, same as you have 2 armies facing each other. What's gonna help the most the army win? The generals, right? So that's something I seen it, and reading Sun Tzu for the 3rd time have opened even more my eyes. Okay, what I'm doing is correct. If the general is not prepared well, doesn't matter how talented are your fighters, you're gonna lose the war. If the general doesn't know, okay, what's the weather, or where we're fighting, or how we're fighting, or how many they are.
Yeah.
A good general should know everything about the other army, their general, their fighters, and so make sure he have all the tools to win the war and succeed. For example, one thing I always do, and not many people, just who is expert can see these things, but when I walk in the cage with my fighters, right, if you do this 1 time, it's luck. If you do 2 times, maybe you're lucky again. If you do it 3, 4, 5, 10 times, and you actually show the way you're gonna win, and you execute it in the fight, that's mean it's something there, something behind, and something maybe people should watch in detail to understand, because the moment when we walk in the cage, I'm not only looking at my fighter, I'm looking, okay, what's the dimension of the cage? It's the fence old, it's the sausage, what I like to say, it's the sausage on the edge.
Yep.
So when you push someone in the cage, it's going to be easier to grab the leg and take him down. It's slippery, that's classic.
Yep.
But I don't look only that. I sit down and I look at my right and I look at my left. I look this judge. He's a big guy, big cauliflower ears.
Is he a
He knows what he's doing.
Wrestler?
He knows what he's doing, you know.
Yeah.
Some judges, like, they are extremely passionate about the sport, but they didn't succeed in the sport. Or maybe there was like crazy fan, but they never have a chance or the opportunity, or even, it's nothing bad about that. Like, they didn't have like that drive to being able to compete.
Yeah.
And I seen, okay, this judge doesn't really have a big knowledge of the sport, so I can see him. I never see him in a show before. His first time is sitting here. They all know me. Like, this guy, it's just started, you know. So if I don't take notes of all of this, you know how many times I speak to my fighter and I give him instruction, and how many times I speak to the judge right to me or on my left, right, whenever. I'm saying to him, okay, you took him down. I remember him what have happened in the round, because we all know every single person is impressed what's happened at the end. You can have a fighter who, I take you down on the first second of the first round, and I hold you down for 1 minute and a half. You stand up, and we are pretty even on the feet. But and maybe the last 30 seconds you land a couple of more punches. The judge who is not experienced, he will remember that action, and maybe they're gonna give you the round. But what I try to say, even when it's 1 minute left, I'm talking and I say, okay, you took him down for 1 minute and a half. You win in the round, you know. Keep working on the feet, and whenever I give him other information, so I remind the judge next to me what have happened, because you have to make sure
they actually know what's going on.
Because like, it's exciting, you know what I mean? Like, the person who judge the fight is maybe an extremely passionate fan also. So he's seen the last two big shots, and my guy was 1 minute and a half on top.
Yeah.
Well, my guy won the round. You just have to give him like
the opportunity
to remember that. You know, sometimes it's like this.
That's just like you know, in kickboxing, right? Thai fighters, right? Usually when you watch Muay Thai, every time a big kick lands or a kick lands, and it could even just be blocked on the forearms.
Yeah.
But you hear the kind of straight away, and that's, you know, the idea is that it's like it's calling out the things that are scoring, right? And even though it might have been blocked, that doesn't matter. If you're in the corner of this fighter, you want this fighter to win, right? So there's a couple of other points that I wanted to sort of touch upon, you know, that you brought up that I think are really, really great and important for people to sort of think about. One was about, you know, when you're going into the cage to compete, you know, you don't think past this day, right? And so, you know, shout out to one of my friends, Zach, who also, I think he was also at XSC that day with Austin. But shout out to Zach, you know, he and I.
He performed very, very good.
Very well. Right?
Was an amazing fight, very close, and he showed like to wanted more until the end. Yeah. Very, very good fighter.
So you know, he and I were having a bit of a chat, because, you know, he was sort of saying to me, I effed up my post-fight speech. Right, and then and I was like, you know, I can give you some tips about that, you know, just in terms of how you approach it. And I think this also applies to how you approach competition in general. So one of the things that I do that I think is really, really important, and like for most people, if you don't have kids, you probably wouldn't understand this, right? But literally the night before we flew up to Queensland, you know, I'm putting my kids to sleep, and I'm telling them that I love them as if it could potentially be my last time to say that to them, because I don't know what's going to happen. You know, something could happen, and maybe I wasn't coming back. Right? I know that's a very extreme way to view it, but that is how I think anybody that walks into that cage should approach life, because as much as we regulate the sport and try and make it safe, things can happen. You know, maybe you have an underlying issue that you don't know about.
Exactly.
And for me, I just wanted to make sure that no matter that, if that was going to be the last memory that my kids had of me, that is how I wanted them to remember me.
You've done your best.
I've done my best.
Yep.
So in that way, you know, when you do get in there, you can leave it all on the line.
Yep.
You know, there's, and this is the thing, I think, you know, and it goes back to what we were saying about, you know, if it was a war and you're going into combat, you know, you can't have these things on your mind when you're doing it. And as much as people try and say that, like it isn't, it is a selfish sport. You know, this is a selfish endeavor. Like when you go into the cage, it's something that's become very personal.
Yep.
And it has to have that element of selfishness, right? You can do it for love, especially if you're fighting in a war and things like that. You're trying to protect the people that you love. Yes, absolutely. But selfishly, you need to try and survive, right? And if you have these other things that are holding you back, that you're thinking about or you're worrying about, that is actually going to slow you down in execution.
Exactly.
Right?
You know, it's very important to be in that state. And going back to you know, I always say to my student, almost every single time, we have the same routine. And one thing I say before we go walk in the cage, and I think everyone who fights against us feels that. For us, is another day in the office. I always say to them, like, hey, because you cannot even fight to that extreme level if you are that day something else. Makes sense? So if I have training and I have this chat with you, and before sparring you're having a coffee, and that's your routine, that's what you're doing. Hamza, for example, asked me the day before, so what I should eat today? Say, what do you eat every day? I eat this. That's it. Like, it's not like...
No different.
It's not another day.
Yep.
So it is the end of things, but you have to be in that middle. You cannot vibrate too much and too low. You have to be there in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, to yourself. And of course, it's gonna be more crowd, but that's why we are. And you say during the fight also, we are big on visualization. You know, and I don't think many people can do that. Like now, need a special people to be able to drive you to seeing things how they happen and prepare you to make it happen like this, because that's so hard.
Yeah.
MMA is a sport like where everything is unpredictable.
Yeah.
And if one of your fighter is able to executing a game plan like that and win in that specific way, this means their trust between the army and the general, is the right trust. But a lot of people, a lot of general, they're not willed to die for their fighters. I'm willed to die for them, you know. So when we go into that day and when we go into war, why I don't want my guy to lose, because I will be completely broken for 5 days, which it's okay. And with time, you cannot have guys fighting every weekend. You know, now we're gonna be in New Zealand. The week after we are at Urban. The week after we have 2 title fights in Melbourne, and Zach fighting also in Melbourne. You cannot be. You learn some tools to, some mechanism to slow it down, but you have to go as a coach in that last fight, because for me I'm not thinking after. I'm thinking about that day. Same as my student, because if how many times talking about war, etc. Think about if all these warriors turn around to the general and they see him don't know what to do.
Yeah.
How they gonna feel?
Yeah,
They're gonna feel
confident.
lost.
Yeah.
They're gonna feel not confident. But if I'm telling you, hey, we're gonna win this way, we prepare this way. It's not like I like to say in my post magic. It's not magic. It's so much fucking hard work on that. It's every day being here 6 a.m. and finish at 10 p.m. like yesterday, and put everything because that's how a real general should do. Should be able to...
We run the scenarios.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy about the team is that, we can run all these different scenarios. We're fortunate to have a cage, a full like a proper cage here. Even though it's a slightly small cage, it's still for most that's the same size as
replicate most of the shows in Australia. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
and so we can really visualize everything from from getting in the cage, the glove touch, what your first movements are, right? Yeah. What are some of the things that we want to go into the first round with? What are some of the things that we're aiming to set up? And I think anyone who hasn't looked at some of those reels that you put together, you put together some great video content where you actually show, what you're visualizing beforehand and what actually gets executed in the fight.
Exactly. And what's, Johnny, the most important, most interesting part? Everyone prepares technique, and now, I seen some people start doing the visualization also, etc. It's okay, but we really prepare specific scenario. For example, a couple of weeks ago we was working on a situation where you're not gonna fight, and we're never gonna fight at our hometown or our show, because we don't have our show.
Yep.
We are driving and flying everywhere in Australia to fight.
Yep.
Everywhere, every week. And still someone says we're not fighting everyone. Well, I just have data, and that's what it is. 70% of our fight are short notice. Like the fight we're fighting, 70% are short notice. So
Awesome, 4 days, right?
4 days notice. And
did Hamza have an opponent change or something?
2 weeks. 2 weeks was no. His opponent was meant to be fight another guy, so he was in camp, and we just replaced the opponent who injured himself.
Yep.
So the things is to being able to do that. This means the base are extremely solid and well done, because you cannot bring these fighters. And Hamza is completely an MMA 50 product. You know, like he started his as a kid. He was smaller than me, and now he's 2 times taller than me. You know what I mean?
He's tall,
He's massive, and everything he executed is daily MMA 50 drills. You know, for example, I want to point these things, and maybe it's gonna be helpful for many fighters out there. What we have worked a couple of weeks ago was a situation where we know we're gonna fight not at home. You know, I know we're gonna take that person down. I know we're gonna hold them down. I know in some situation, you know, for example, side control from the bottom, the guy or girl is holding the opponent down, and it's because we are not fighting with our crowd, etc. People gonna scream boo. I already know what
someone's screaming.
Some kids are screaming. So we're not gonna be like their referee.
Yeah.
The judge is gonna be extremely vulnerable on the public, on the crowd feelings. You know, they're gonna scream boo. We're gonna stand up. You know, so we need to prepare that, because think about as a fighter, you have a game plan, right? You're executing game plan. Everything goes right. You take him down. You know, you're on top, and you're working your way to construct the action to improve your position. Maybe it's the first minute of the first round and whenever. So it's all going your way. But he's holding the noises, the crowd. What the referee is going to do? Guys, action, back up.
Yeah.
How many times that small situation completely destroyed the fighter who was winning? Because, fuck, I'm back on the feet. Now I have to go back there. And we prepare all of this situation, which I make people think, you know, like, and specifically fighters, is extremely important for you as a fighter to make sure you have touch base, and it's a lot of work, like it's massive. But even once to have like repeat all this micro situation where like sometimes you're gonna have you walk in the cage, all in the zone, ready to go in, they check in on you, and same as happened like Jones against Cyril. They break all his zone. You have to take your tape off and spend like 5 minutes. And some people get very lost about that. You know, they all envision in one way, but now the referee is stopping me. I'm spending 5 minutes to unwrap my foot or cut the nails, right? Yeah. Or forgot the mouth guard in the back. You know?
Or the groin guard. That happened at Showdown.
Exactly. You know, it's many things which have to you have to prepare as a fighter and as a coach just to keep you attached there, you know, which it's very important. Sometimes, you know, how people say it's very important to spar and have like not many people on the mat, and sometimes it's very important to spar and have a lot of people on the mat. Yeah. Because a good fighter, it's connected here, but it's also connected.
Awareness.
He hear the judge, he hear the other corner. It's very important to have awareness of what's around you, you know. You touch the canvas and it's a small... when I was fighting, I will feel that. Like, and all like elite athletes know that. I put my foot, here is slippery. And in the moment of the fight, you know. So let me move away from the sides from there. Like, you know that. You've been in there. And that's where I think we make huge difference, you know. It's all of this gray area.
I would call it layering, right? That's the word that I use. And, you know, I talk about this a lot. Especially when I study fights and try and put things into practice, whether it's, you know, helping any of the guys train or building layers, right? Like, as an example, you know, and that Hamza fight is a great example of it, right? Because there's two things I want to say about that, and people that have watched the live stream will hear me say, you know, yes, the important thing is that one of the great things to execution is that as soon as Coach Renato would say something, Hamza would go and execute. Now that is important because, first of all, you yell. You're very loud in the corner. Right? You're very vocal in the corner, which is fantastic. But at the same time, if the fighter does not execute, the opponent also knows what's coming. If the opponent is switched on, right? I'm not saying...
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I love that point because what about when the opponent hear the fear of what's coming?
Exactly.
That's interesting too. You know,
Yeah.
I make sure to be... I have to be loud because my fighter have to be able to capture information, but when they know what we're doing, we executing, and they hear them, well, maybe I want that too, you know.
This is where it gets interesting, you know. And like when you see some like two fighters with great awareness, and it's a very even contest, often it's the corner that makes the difference. You know, because it becomes a corner battle. You hear the corner might be saying, watch the low round, because they know the low round's coming. And then the other corner then has to go, okay, we got to change it. We got to go mid, or we got to go whatever, right? So these are the things that sort of make it a very, very interesting battle. So the first point I wanted to make was just on that
chest.
Yeah, that execution side.
Yeah.
But the second part is that, you know, that the layering is so important because in any setup, right, you can't have a setup if things are unpredictable, right?
Exactly.
This is what people... and I guess, you know, why I have a very specific style of film study. Like, you know, when people watch, you can watch like whether it's Jack Slack or Lawrence Kinshin, like they all have a specific sort of style.
Yeah.
And I have a very specific thing that I like to focus on because for me, I'm not really, don't get me wrong, I get entertained by when there are big knockouts or whatever else. But what I'm more interested in is how did it get to that point? You know, if it's over in 17 seconds, it's and there's nothing wrong with that.
There's not much
but
you can say.
You can't really
much
study
data.
much.
Yeah.
But when you see it, you know, that maybe that particular scenario played out multiple times, and then it was only in the third round that it became effective, or the fifth round that it became effective. They're the things that I really like to study because it's like now we've got data.
Yeah.
We can go and use that data and go, okay, if we use this entry and, you know, where it's the Volkanovski versus Islam study, you know, that shifting stance entry. Okay, we've got data now. We see that entry a few times. And Islam actually started to counter the entry as well because he'd started to click onto, okay, this is what's happening.
Adjust.
Whoop, boom. And then the elbow landed. And it's like, okay, that's high level because the adjustments, there's layers upon layers. And it's setting up what's coming next, right? And that was, you know, what happened with Hamza. You know, it went body, body, body. Well, it was the low actually, so you know you could hear it very clearly. It was feint 1-2, and then he goes feint 1-2, feint 1-2 again, right? And then it was low, and then low, and then after that there was a bit of a grapple, and then it was like as he was trying to exit that side of the cage,
and that was like all the key of the fight. Like we knew at some point we're gonna take him down, just to make him fear that aspect too. So many fighters are coming to a fight with one game plan, which you have to have your plan A, okay? But things can happen, and that was what I was talking to Percy last night when we were preparing his fight.
Yeah,
like you can have your game plan, and so many things can happen.
Yeah,
and you have to be able to, like, your arm is hurt.
Yeah,
and you have to change stance. Like I seen these days, in my opinion, like the sport have evolved drastically.
Yeah.
So the level of amateur fighters now locally.
Yeah.
Like, look Hamza. Look his debut. Come on, he doesn't look like a guy who just turned 18.
His composure was phenomenal.
Like, that's the level of some professional fighters back in the day, 8 years old, maybe 10 years old, UFC level. That's the reality. Because all these kids are training 3 times a day. They've been like access to the best like dietitian, strength conditioning coach, MMA coaches, like, so their level is different, you know. The sport this is why you cannot leave these things, these details outside the box, you know. You have to keep them all in. And even with Hamza fight, we have plan A, B, C, D, A, everything. Okay, of course we're putting our effort in A, B, mainly A, because that's what we want, but we know we can go everywhere, and that's where corner is very important. Sometimes corner ask things, and I seen a lot of, I stay and I watch every single fight after, not because I love the game and I love to study, and I see how the other people, I seen even the good things. They've been like, I'm not learning from the sky, you know. I'm learning, observing and watching, like sometimes they're not even like coaches who are in UFC. But sometimes I capture just what I needed, and okay, that's interesting. You know, that's what can help me as I evolve. And
we can learn from anyone. That's
from
the thing.
anyone.
Yeah.
I have fighters who, when I make them play, you know, which is something I'm not big fan. Like, it's not the right word, because one coach was saying to us, "Yeah, let him go in and play," because that's stupid. You know what I mean? That's just it's not fun. It's like you're getting hurt, and you see showdown with so many knockouts, so many people get hurt. You know, and like if you're an amateur and you get knocked down bad. It's something I hope in Australia will change. I'm a big fan of like the IMMAF rule sets. I'm a big fan. Every amateur should wear 7-ounce gloves, shin guards, etc. Why? Because it doesn't make sense for you to take bearing damage and your first fight is with the 4-ounce gloves, 6-ounce gloves, whenever it is. And I think, you know, hopefully in Europe is like that. So all the country have the IMMAF rules. It's just Australia and a few other countries who still have like, you know, knee to the head, some shows no. Like it's very, very weird. And I think like that's where like as a federation, as an IMMAF Australia, we have to work on, because it's about like brand damage. Like, and it doesn't make sense at all. When you're gonna be professional, you put the small gloves and like, you know, you have sort of level of skill to avoid sort of damage, and we're talking about being professional. But amateur, come on, first fight.
Yeah, see, this is the thing, and you know, I say this all the time. The level is getting so high, and you know, for those that haven't seen, like, if they want to see how the level is, go to combatants.com and check out the Showdown event, because if you look at the amount of finishes on that card, like you could have been watching like the UFC Fight Pass as an example, right? You know, and like for the fighters that, you know, were on the receiving end, you know, I wish you guys a speedy recovery, because you 100%. Know, the sad thing is that, you know, it could be the end of their run in the sport.
100%.
You know, when you take damage like that. And so, you know, we're sort of we're in this sort of weird area where it's like, you know, it's not really amateur. Like when I think amateur, I'm thinking like, you know, pancration, where there's like no hits to the head, or you know, even like combat grappling. That shout out to Luke Pizzuti, and Super Fight is coming up for those that are interested.
Amazing event.
But yeah, Luke used to run New South Wales amateur mixed martial arts, and it was headgear, shin pads, 7-ounce gloves. Like it was, in that same vein of what you're talking about. But you know, we're in this sort of weird position where it's like by the time people are making their first walk to the cage, it's semi-professional. You know, I use that terminology. You know, the only reason it's not professional is because they're not getting paid. But you know, you look at the quality of the martial arts that's on display. You know, selfishly for me, I don't mind that there's cards that allow the knees to the head and everything like that, because that plays into my style. But on the flip side, I can understand it from the other perspective. But this is where I feel like this is where the level of the refereeing and the judges needs to be very high level in Australia as well, right?
But the problem is, like, you understand why it cannot be. You know, these people, like, shout out to all of them also. Like,
it's not an easy job.
Stay there all day. You know what I mean? Like, not get paid like much. It's mainly passion. It's the point, like, I feel like I have to change the fact, like, every amateur fight should be 7-ounce glove, shin guard. And look, you have the greatest example. Look Makaev, look all of them. They end up like having 20, 30 amateur fights and turn pro and be an absolutely savages. And people bring me other example, but data. I like to be mathematic, you know.
But don't you think that style lends itself to a more specific style of mixed martial arts? Like, I feel like when you got the 7-ounce gloves, you got shin pads on. If you can't knee to the head, it leads more into the grappling.
What I think should be done is missing the stage in the middle. For example, you know, as many shows in Australia, they have like 4-ounce glove. Should be like, in my opinion, after you get some sort of experience, you can or choose to go pro, or you can play in that gray area, which is what some people on the first fight do. You know, it's very dangerous, guys. Like, you have like, look Muay Thai, you have like light contact, and you have like so many rules and padding and everything. Like, we go in on the first fight with people who never fought before, and we give them like 2 guns and like let's go 4. You know what I mean? That's too much. And also, yeah, I agree with you. Probably the wrestler grappler will be in the first, which like you hit hard with the 7-ounce gloves, you knock someone out anyway. I've seen so many knockouts with the 7-ounce gloves in IMMAF actually. But, well, it's better for a fighter learn a style which that's the style who's gonna preserving more in the career, because you can stand and bang for 15 fights amateur, and you're gonna be cooked on your pro debut, with all the brand damage you had in the process. Plus, not talking about sparring and all of this. So I think it's missing the evolution. Needs to be something previous. Just stepping in with the 4-ounce gloves and hit each other. That's what I think. And that's for me very interesting, and I think that's what we need. That's that Olympic level, where it's gonna lean to people to have so much more experience. Because let's be honest, Johnny, people in Australia on the top, they're not fighting each other. End of story. So that's it. Like a lot of belts. And I understand why that's happening, because you create hype, and a kid who's fighting for the belt, it's okay, but belts on the sides, right? You want the best to fight the best, and you want, like, if you have sort of ranking, and it's a ranking number 1 and ranking number 2, they never fought each other, in my opinion, it's something wrong, you know what I mean? Like, do you want to be the best? And even in term of moving to your professional career, you want to say, okay, I've challenged myself with the best amateur, where I still have some rule set where are softer, let's say it. But that's how a fighter should be. You start MMA because you want to be the best of the best. That's why you do in MMA. If not, you will do, like, boxing is MMA. It's complete. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in boxing, you see that, like, people on the top of the level, they're not fighting each other, and they're not. But come on, like, if you're an amateur, before you turn pro, you want to have the ability to say, okay, I fought. I'm not saying all in the ranking, because that is impossible.
Yeah,
but
of course.
1, 2, 3, they should, like, fought each other, maybe even multiple times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To get the spot and things like that. That's how I seen it.
Yeah.
And it's very hard.
It's funny because, like, I'm always, whenever I'm at these events and I'm, producing content or I'm doing commentary, I'm always asking fighters, what's next, who's next, all those sorts of questions. And, it's always great because I think, the Australian scene needs that, where it's like, we can build a little bit of a hype about who we want to watch. Right, who's exciting, and who, and it also helps them to sort of build their platform as well. And I think when you look at most big fights, there's always some kind of a storyline that people can buy into, right? And there's no reason why that can't be done at the amateur or pro or semi-pro or pro level in the Australian scene. And it can be done in the right way, where it's not like misleading or anything like that. We don't have to manufacture storylines and turning into professional wrestling. All we need to do is just have honest people who come out, and then it's like they get a title, fantastic. Who's next?
Because sometimes, like, it's not like a bit sad, like you've seen people fighting for the title, right? And like they actually, like, this guy have a good record, and the other guy, it's okay as a record, but should be other 5-6 guys before this guy, to step in the cage for a title fight. And it's sad because all the fans are missing that level of, like, oh, you're gonna just see a guy comes in the cage, lands 2 shots, the other guy full down, TKO, blah blah blah, and etc. You want to have, like, to get this sport, and I feel like, for the promotion is really important, the storyline, but I feel like these athletes on the top of the level should get in the mindset not to fight each other only once. Before they turn pro, should have fight each other maybe 1, 2, 3 times,
Well, I think that also helps to builds a platform with both fighters. So as an example, one of the professional boxing shows I did, shout out to Billy Hussein and J&I Promotions, but, Yusuf Yui Dib, so brother of Billy Dib, fought Kai Frenzy McKenzie. That was a 10-round war. Great fight. To me, even though Kai lost that fight, I don't think his stock is diminished at all, because it was a very competitive match. Right? And so, I can give you an MMA example. So Amina Hadeh out of freestyle fought Lisa Kiriakou from Melbourne. And, even though Amina didn't come away with the win from that, I don't think her stock is diminished at all.
Not all.
Another freestyle fighter, shout out to Jarrett Wilbraham, took on Khan Alifi. And, he had so Khan stepped in last minute, managed to secure the hex belt. But same thing, I don't think Jarrett's stock is necessarily diminished by taking 100%, that loss, right?
100%.
Because at the end of the day, the fans win. There is a bit of a spectator element to this sport still. I think if you want to appeal to a larger variety of people, there needs to be that spectator element. But at the same time, from a fighting perspective, yeah, I think you're right. You got to be smart about how you manage yourself and your career, because
exactly
you've got a finite window in terms of how long you can fight for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's like you got to respect, father time, and you got to know when enough is enough as well.
Exactly. That's very 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 hard. I know, because like it's so many, as a coach, you have so many fighters who they coach, I want to fight, because they're in the environment with fighters. They see them winning, achieving, and things like that. But it's very hard to say a fighter, okay, that's it. And you have to do it as a coach. Like, that's your role. You have to say, hey, that's it.
Yeah.
Help me with the classes. Help me to prepare some fighters. But we don't need to take more damage. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You have to look after yourself first.
Yeah.
And I had a few fighters with I have like this conversation, and sometimes, even in the past in Italy, they cannot accept it, because they have like still that fire, that ego, and that's why you have to like make sure, like you have to compete when you have the ability, you have the right age. And age, look, it's depends how, like, if you're 38, but look yourself
39 now.
39. Like, you have always look after yourself.
Yeah.
You're healthy. You have a healthy lifestyle. Your reaction, I see when someone have the reaction. No, if I see someone landing a jab and this guy is not reacting at 38, like, man, you cannot fight, But you are very, very reactive. You look like you're 28.
Yeah.
That's the reality. So we still have some bullet in our gun. You know what I mean?
But it's also, I think it's, I have the awareness to know that, hey, for me, we've got young teammates in this, right?
Exactly.
And the opportunity for me to make a run, no, it's not there. I'm not looking to make a run of it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm 39 now. I've got other things in my life that are more important.
And
like
you're doing very well,
Yeah.
You're doing well in the commentary, in helping me in the coaching sides, in preparing game plans and all of these. Like, it's something, same myself. People think I'm not old. I'm 31.
Yeah.
And I step in with the boys. I give them good rounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I have still some skills, but I understood like pretty early. I have a vision, right? And it's so like being a fighter. You need a big ego, okay? Which is not a bad ego, no, but can lean to a bad ego if you're not able to understand what you want, Because sometimes it's an addiction. The win is an addiction.
Yeah.
Even when you lose, it's an addiction. Like, okay, I want to redeem myself. You have to find the right balance. I was undefeated, I could have like continue, and actually, my last fight, I had like Bellator contact me and like, okay, let's come up, let's fight, and I'm like. I'm having a team at the moment. I started because I wanted to get ready. I need people to get ready. I don't have anyone. I have to drive 1 hour and a half to have the ability to training with decent people. So I have to create decent people next to me because I know I need to training 2-3 times a day to be on that level. And at some point, preparing them, etc. And they fighting, they winning, things are going great. And I just understand, like, as a back in the day, my job wouldn't be like I could have done great in the sport, but I just, for me, didn't bring me anything more.
You recognized early, like, that's not what that delivers you the right. It doesn't bring you the right sort of joy. And actually, that makes me think of Olivia Okma.
Yeah.
Right? Shout out to Olivia. A superstar.
Amazing person,
beautiful heart, and a great training partner too, right? Like, one of those things.
One of the best. Like, one of the reasons why I start coaching here is because I saw Olivia and I saw the way she was, the heart and the effort she was putting in training, and I say, I want to help this girl, and you're just an incredible human being.
Yeah, and so this is the thing, with Olivia, like, she also realized for herself that her passion she doesn't like to get hit, and nobody likes to get hit, right?
Yeah.
Like you got to be.
Some people like it.
Yeah.
Some people like MMA. It's
True.
Yeah, some people.
Some
people they have to be hit. Like.
Yeah, true. I think the ones that like it generally, it's like they're using that sort of pain and suffering to compensate for something else going in their lives. But for Olivia, like absolute talent. She's got so much talent. Beautiful. And when her head's in it, like she can put everything together. And then I think for her, after her last fight, she sort of realized that she's still passionate about competing, but just not in the mixed martial arts space. And so she's actually going to be competing at Subversion, the upcoming Subversion. I think it's either June or July, but I can't remember now. But it's going to be the state of origin, so it's going to be New South Wales versus Victoria. So that's going to be a great event. Subversion always puts on a great event. So shout out to George and Emma Mink, who put on a great performance there. But yeah, so Olivia, that's a great example where she's smart enough to recognize for herself, okay, this is where I want to go now.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you need to experience the adversity to know, okay, this isn't for me anymore. And knowing when to close that chapter in your life is a great thing. I think one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is that when they want to close that particular chapter, they don't have anything else to go to.
Yeah.
And that's when people get lost.
And that's where the people stay also. Because, think about being a fighter. You put all this hour a day to do that, and you now stop. No, for me, it was like that. For me, when I stopped fighting, I was empty. And I had probably the worst period of my life because I was like, should I fight or should I coach? But I knew what was the right for me.
Yeah.
And the people next to me have helped me. Their needs to have me stronger and to have me, because they say you don't choose to be a leader, right? I actually, I'm a pretty a lonely wolf. I don't like to go out. I don't do anything. I just watch MMA. That's what I'm doing 24/7, And but they say people choose you to be a leader, which for me is not a leader. For me, I'm pushing with you guys, and we push together to. What is more beautiful? Everyone talks about because what captures you more is the bad guy, try to do but it's something better than when you stand next to a guy and he's a very good person and he does great and you say, fuck, this guy is amazing. I just want to sit next to him and this guy is a great guy, That's and have the ability to help someone, have the power to help someone to do better. Is anything better than that?
Yeah.
No. I tell you, have the ability to, with seeing someone, not in a good moment, and you have the ability to get him back on the feet and, make him strong, and seeing that success and make it happen is nothing better than that.
Yeah.
To help someone, sometimes, someone struggled financially, no?
Yeah.
And you it's not like you give money to everyone, but, he needs. I have friends in the past. I helped them financially, and they was able to go back on their feet and do great. And I'm like, fuck, that's great, And that's financially one aspect. But think about in terms someone struggle mentally. Say, hey, brother, I'm here, but no, I'm here. Many people confuse that. Many people think someone is a good friend. Okay, if something happen, I have your back. That's not a good friend. A good friend, if I'm a good friend of yours, no, and I know something I do can create you problem, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm not gonna do it. So for example, if we go somewhere and someone wants trouble and you're with me, if you're a good friend, you don't want to get trouble because I don't want you to get in trouble. Okay, if I'm by myself all day, let's do it, But if I know my action can create you a problem, and I still do it, I'm not a good friend.
Yeah.
End of story. Same as coaches, right? There's a lot of coaches who they get too much excited on their fighters. I can say performance, or they get too emotional. Okay, too emotional, not in the technical aspect, but in a personal level.
Yep.
Which that's not gonna lead. For example, I can. It's always fighting game is full of testosterone and full of people who wants to prove themselves, etc. But if you're a good coach, if you're a good general, you cannot be involved in circumstances where your fighter is gonna pay the price, and maybe you create drama. Your fighter is not gonna fight on the show. His fight gonna cancel. This guy prepared for 2-3 months to fight this, and you're an idiot as a coach. You start like creating problem.
Yeah.
Very, very ugly to see that, the fighter, and when they win, that's their day, Of course, it's a teamwork, but that's they're the priority.
Yeah.
You, as a general, you have to make sure everything around, all the surrounding, it's right to make them succeed. If you don't do that, you're a bad general,
I feel like that's not a common occurrence anymore in the sport. I think
it's getting better.
Everyone's getting so much more professional.
True.
And like for me, I'm friends with most of the teams. Like I could rattle them all off, but all you need to do is just basically look back through the podcast and you'll see all the teams that
exactly.
I talk to everyone. Because I'm always very curious about their mindset, how they approach things, and I'm selfishly taking these learnings for myself, and so that I can.
What I want to say is this, because I've been in both sides.
Yeah.
You have a fighter who get knocked down, and the other team like scream, cheer. Like, as a human, as a person, you have to be smart to understand. Like, if they are going crazy because his guy just won by knockout, you cannot stare at them bad, or like.
No, you
why?
Can't. They're in the moment.
In the moment, like so. You have. That's what I'm saying. Like a coach, a good general, have to be smart in these things. No, have to be like to understand. Like, okay, these guys are cheering. I've been on the sides. Like Jack was. What have happened? He was winning the fight. And everyone go crazy. I feel like someone hit me in the head myself. You know what I mean? But but I cannot blame these people to like that's the game. This army won. They celebrate.
Coach, if you want to talk about conflict, think about me in commentary, right? So here I am, and then it's like it could be two of my friends in there fighting each other.
Yeah.
And like,
I don't know how you do.
it's so it's one of those things. When I always try and be very professional when I'm doing commentary, because I got to call it down the line. I got to call it exactly how I see it. And if anyone gets upset with me, I apologize. But I got to say, if you're not doing the right things technically, that's what I'm going to call out on.
Exactly.
Because that's why I'm there. I'm there to try and help people to understand what is going on, calling the action, talking about what needs to happen. And I always like to talk about what are the changes that each corner must make. Because I always approach it from the perspective of, when I competed all those years ago, like it was never recorded, right? So I never had that benefit of being able to watch it back. I might have like a grainy, early iPhone picture, something like that, but like I didn't have the benefit of having it, professionally recorded by combatants and having this whole library available of everything that's happened. And watch these other fighters as well. You could potentially find your competitors there too.
Yeah.
Right. And so, whenever I'm doing commentary, I'm always thinking about, okay, what kind of information can I provide to the fighters so that when they watch this back, they're going to be better the next time that I see them. Like maybe it's an insight that, and chances are their coaching staff's already picked up on it, but maybe they, the way that I deliver it might be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So that it might click for them. And so as a result of that, because I'm always thinking about how to do that. When I chat with all the different fighters, and a lot of these guys become my friends. And then I see two of them competing against each other, and it's like, I just hope everyone's okay. That's
exactly
the most important thing.
Do you know how much let's be honest, like the Australian MMA scene, and specifically in Sydney, it's so many good teams and fighters.
So many good teams, yeah.
And like now you can see it as a team, as a head coach in one way. You can see it like, okay, it's always two way to interpret what someone else is good.
Yeah.
So you try to put it down, or you try to level yourself up.
Yeah.
That's the two way you can act. There's no other way.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so much competition, and now if we want to be great as a team, and we want to be the best one day, we need to have surrounding of high level teams.
Absolutely.
That's it. Like if we go to every show and like knock down everyone, like, which is not the case, like it's very, very high level. It's so competitive. Like if we do that, once you go to the IMMAF and you find some Magomedo who is fighting you, like you're gonna get raped. You know what I mean? And so this means all the things like and so many fighters. I'm one of the coaches of the national team. I've seen them, They come to this experience in IMMAF with amazing record, with some killer resume. They come there and they say, wow, okay, that's it, that's the level. Shout out to Khan. Khan came with an amazing record, 7-1. He won the first fight, and the second fight he lost against I don't remember now, Estonia, I think. And he was like, okay, I need to improve my wrestling and grappling. So that's the real deal. That's the real level.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. Like we have some amazing prospect, and I want now go out of MMA 50 head coach and talk about as a coach of the national team, as a IMMAF. Like, challenge yourself, put your name down, try to compete Oceania, Asia, and World Championship, and all of this competition at the top of the level, because you want to have like that feedback, you know. You want to have like that sort of real challenge. These people are, every single person who comes to IMMAF are the number one ranked on their weight class in their country. So it's the la creme de la creme. It's like the best, you know. If you do a silver medal, bronze medal, or you're number 5 or number 7 in the world, man, you're number 7 in the world. Like, it's like the best of the best.
Well, so like to go back to Far for 1 second. So if you want to find Far, it's at Mesquita MMA underscore MMA. But when she won the gold medal in Serbia, that took her on the pro amateur ranking. So pro and amateur, I think she's number 5 or something like that.
Okay, so pound for pound, pro and amateur, she's number 5.
There you go.
Amateur, pound for pound, she's number 1.
Yeah.
But they put them together because it's more like. It's just how topology work, you know. It's not many,
which is fine, because I think that's also going to give a good opportunity to see where she's at in terms of, you know, if she's going to do a pro debut this year.
Yeah.
Then, you know, like, people need to see.
Interesting part. She was 2-1. She came back. She's 6-1.
Yeah.
You know,
because the amount of competitions.
You know, and that's what you want. Like, that's big things for any fighter of any team. My fighters, other fighters, like the activity.
Well, see.
You have to be active.
Yeah.
You cannot have amateur fighters who are training 2-3 times a day and they compete once a year. Come on, you know, it's a waste of their time. For them, like, it's a waste of time. I understand pro, we work in different things. We work in, like, you can have like 2-3 fights a year. It's okay. Depends on how old are you also. You know what I mean? Like, but as an amateur, like, if you win and you win, this is why Hamza didn't cut a lot of weight, because I seen all of this. He's 18. I'm thinking about his future. Yeah. And anyway, his opponent missed weight. First weight, agree, no. Second weight, we agree 70. He missed weight. Anyway, that's what I don't know. I don't remember if we ever have missed weight as a team, you know. And we're competing that's where all these small step. The athlete's gonna feel professional, but I'm cutting weight with them every single time. Yeah. I make sure like they are on point and everything, you know, and the team around, like, take them and prepare them. Everything is around the guy who's competing the day when he's competing. But anyway, yeah.
What I was just going to comment on when you were talking about, you know, it doesn't matter what team, you know, you should be doing like these bigger the IMMAF competitions and trying to get that experience. You know, one of the things that you know, I think is also really important to point out is that whenever an athlete gets that big stage, you know, and we can name like three of the biggest Australian stars at the moment, or more, you know, but like, I'm just talking about from the Sydney scene, you know, Josh Kulabau. Yep. Even though he's at Igor's, everybody gets behind him. Jamie Malaki, Central Coast MMA. Yep. Alex Volkanovski, Robert Whittaker.
You see them every show.
You know, you see those guys every show. Or Jamie, Josh, always at the shows.
That's beautiful.
Supporting their team, and this is the thing. Like, you know, people see, you know, Josh walking past and go, oh, there's a UFC fighter.
And also think about for his teammates, right? So they see him there in the trenches, you know, and they looking after their people. They want their tribe to succeed. Yeah. Like, you know how much for a guy, like, I make an example. I'm coaching every single week. I didn't need it to be in the corner of Hamza. I could have other people could have done that, you know. I could have taken a weekend off or whenever I need it, maybe. Okay. But like, I know how much needs for him. Same when you see these high level profile athletes, maybe they corner you, or maybe they just come to support you. Man, that's like, but because they started from these shows. They started from the bottom. No, they started on the on the level when no one support, not a lot of people support you. Few friends come to watch you, and it's a pub. People are getting drunk, and like that's the which, well, the show in Australia are amazing. To be honest, like it's still like, but to be honest, like actually probably on the other hand, you get. Like oh shit, like it's so professional. You feel more tension for that. Maybe it will be better if it's like some crap show and you just jump in and you say, okay, I'm gonna perform. But every single show is like what I've been now lately. I've been to Beatdown. Shout outs to Damien. Amazing show, amazing production. Urban, an amazing show. Like they invest so much money in production, etc. Another show which it's very new and it's one of my favorite. Enduro, yes. Enduro is amazing. Pat of X, Tina, an amazing person and such a great matchmaker. Every fight, like now it's Buds and Percy fighting for the title. Very excited. Hex, of course. Eternal with Cam. Like look at the level of the production, the color, like the graphic, amazing.
Yep.
Plus, I'm probably gonna forget a million of them.
XFC,
Demolition, wow. Demolition. XFC, every time you go there, the crowd is amazing. Yeah. Brisbane.
I'll tell you. I just want to tell this funny story because I can't remember if I've told this on the podcast. But this is a funny story from the XFC fight from when I went up. So it's at the Mansfield Tavern, right? And so if you think about, for any of you that are Sydney-siders, like the Mansfield is sort of like in an area that I would sort of liken it to maybe like, I don't know, like Rudy Hill, like Mount Druitt. Like it can be a little bit rough. Right?
Yeah.
But great atmosphere and always a great crowd, great turnout, and because the local guys always have quite a few fighters on the show. So shout out to Ignite.
Even super fight with Luke Pizzuri. I cannot forget that. I have to Showdown, of course, Craig. I just want to mention them all because
Silverback. There's so many,
Silverback,
right? And we love all of them. Like I love all of them because I'm
it's
guys,
just great production.
Put me on. I'm here for
you
commentary.
have a great commentator.
But so this story from XSC. So when you're an interstate fighter, going to enemy territory, so to speak, and obviously there's a local guy there fighting, and the crowd will generally be in the local person's favor, and that's fine. Like that's part of the experience, right?
Yeah.
I think for anyone that wants to have longevity in the sport, you're going to have that experience where you're fighting in enemy territory, so to speak. But it was quite funny, one of the things that was very big in my mind in terms of how I wanted to approach the fight is that I wanted to make sure that I put on a good show, right? And so then that obviously, did me a few favors with the crowd, and the crowd was fantastic. Like they really rallied behind after. But I got to tell you,
was the star. Like,
so
you couldn't talk to him anymore after the fight.
So just for the anyone that goes to watch these shows, like this is the awkward thing that happened is that I went to go and take a piss in the bathroom, and so I got to tell let me give you some backstory here.
I wasn't there with him.
No. Yeah, I got to give you some backstory, and this is something that actually happened when I was like in my early teens or something. I think we went on a family holiday overseas with my parents, right?
Yeah.
And I was on. We went to Hong Kong, and I was on like one of these like boats that goes between like the island and the city or whatever. And this is actually a bad story, a negative story. I went to the toilet on the boat.
Yep.
And I was taking a piss at the urinal, and there was this guy beside me, like an old man kind of a thing. And I didn't notice because I was just in my own world.
Yeah.
But after, I realized that he was staring at my dick.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I legged it out of there, got out of there straight away, right? And I was only 12 or 13 or something. I was quite young at that time, right? Yeah. So that actually, funnily enough, led to me it made me a bit anxious. And I still, if I'm pissing at a urinal and somebody comes and stands next to me, sometimes it's going to give me stage fright. Like I just stand there and nothing comes out, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the sort of backstory in terms of why I get that way. But so after my fight, I'm standing at the urinal trying to have a piss, and the Mansfield's packed, right? And then people are coming in and out of the bathrooms all the time. And then the thing is that because I just fought and I was in the bathroom, like people were coming up and saying, "Oh, mad fight, blah blah blah." I was stuck there. I couldn't pee. because like people kept wanting to shake my hand or whatever. So I was like, oh yeah, just like stand there, one hand, and like just fist bumping on the other side. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like I haven't peed. I don't want to just like pack up and go. I need to pee, but it won't come out. So anyway, after about, you know, maybe 2 minutes of awkwardness, you know, I finished my business, and then even as I'm turning from the urinal, like another guy's like, "Oh man, let me shake your hand." I'm like, "Dude, I just went to the toilet. Let me just wash my hands first."
Was very interesting, you know, because like you came as like your opponent, which is an amazing guy.
Yeah, Andrew.
And
very good team,
game,
right?
Very game.
Gamebred Academy, Ignite Martial Arts, like.
Ignite. I was now with Ryan cornering Piper, which put an amazing performance in the main event in Showdown.
Yep.
Was interesting because you came like almost like a villain at the start, like everyone was against you, and after like everyone taking picture, I say, Johnny, can I still take a picture with you, or you're superstar now? It was like making fun, etc. But it's interesting, no? And that's the beauty as well, like how you can go in enemy territory, and if you behave in a certain way,
it's how you conduct
get
yourself.
the respect, the crowd, you know, because like even, you know, for example, Jack Piper, right? He, you know, that wasn't his hometown, and he fought an amazing fighter, which is an amazing athlete.
Shout out to Daniel Mitchell, the Storm.
Speedy recovery. You know, of course, that's what I said, like, you can win, you get excited. Like, you cannot blame someone to get excited, but after you feel the energy, you know it's an excitement for the win. This is why, like, sometimes I tell my fighter, I remember in French Polynesia, Zach knocked out one of their best fighter, you know, and was like a very bad knockout, which I'm excited. On the first moment, I'm excited but for me as a coach, it's not about the damage my fighter does, is the win. Like, grow together and get to succeed in life and get better. Doesn't matter of the performance. For me, they can all win by point. It's cool. I like to see, as you say before, an amazing knockout and whenever, but I don't like to see other people get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, like I've been in all the sizes, and I've experienced like as a corner being one direction and the other direction is not cool, you know. And Zach went like very excited, like a lot, because he was looking to fight for a long time. He did last minute travel. He slept in the airport. He you know, put in so much hard work to be there.
Yeah.
He financially himself, he pay he have a sponsor paying the ticket, but you know, still when you go away, you miss work, you miss this and that, and like and he knocked out the guy, which was an amazing fighter, and he jumped on the cage, and I'm like patting him, just go down, because first of all, we are not at home, you know.
Yeah.
They're gonna throw us rock on the head if you scream like that. And second, like, which now French Polynesia, shout out to Henry, he's fighting for the heavyweight title in XFC in Dunedin with Matoa and all the boys. Hero, the president of French Polynesia, I've coached there, the national team. I've given few seminars, amazing people. But I didn't know it at the time. I was like, okay, if you scream too much and you
don't
like,
know what's going to happen.
You know, and I say to him, hey, just go down, show your respect, and that's it. Because I know my fighters. I know they not having joy to have hurt someone and knock him out unconscious. It's the joy of the performance, of the success, you know. So that's why as a coach you have to, even sometimes you get very excited, you know, seeing someone like Hamza, just turn 18. A win by knockout against like a very tough opponent. Shout out on him and his team. Very, very tough and good fighter. And, you know, you have to get excited as a coach. He's going to get excited. But until some point, you know, like after, like, boom, you have to you have to go back on track.
You got to be respectful as well.
You have to be that.
Yeah.
No? And that's something which, you know, have to be work behind as a team, you know. You cannot it's education, you know. It's education, and it's not only about the coach, it's family too, you know, like you have to have some sort of ethic, you know.
See, and that's the thing, like I think like in our Australian scene, you know, there doesn't need to be animosity, because at the end of the day, when somebody makes it, you know, we're all behind that fighter. You
We
know,
need
like,
high level. We need high level. Like you, one of the reason, like when I moved from Italy, like at some point I was the best. And can I be honest with you? I was bored also, because like I was going to some shows and like my guys are fighting and we're just winning, and I'm like, you know, sometimes like my guy is not good like the other guy, but just because they know the team, they know the people behind, they know
people get scared.
People like they cannot perform like, and here the level is huge, you know.
And I think, but that's what also elevates the level.
Exactly.
You know? So, like as an example, you know, shout out to Jacinta Austin. She fought recently at UAE Warriors against a very tough opponent, Josephine Knudsen. But you know, Olivia was one of her sparring partners, helping her to prepare.
Yeah.
You know, I love seeing that. You know, seeing people going and helping other teams.
And she put on a very close fight. You
very
know,
close.
like could have gone both way. Honestly, I've watched the fight, and could have gone both way.
Absolutely.
And shout out on her also. You know, I think the other girl was 5-0 or both 4-0.
Yeah,
I don't remember
both,
correctly.
yeah,
4-0 both.
Around the same.
So you know, go in there and perform and put a risk like your all. With one thing I like about her, she always fought tough people. You know, same as we do. Same when you know Olivia fought her, and they're both debuted as a pro. And I think she have a great future. Like she's gonna do very well in the sport. And it's so young, specifically for an MMA fighter, right?
And I like Alex Cariotti as well. So him and Jacinda have been on the podcast. Like he's very cerebral in how he approaches the sport too. So I like that when I see, you know, people spending the time to really invest. Like, you know, there's plenty of places where it's like, you know, the gym's just a business, you know.
And the things is like even to respect more. Like I don't care about like if you know me, me deeply. Like I actually don't care about the underground, the thoughts, the politics. I'm really obsessed and focused on the work. And being like that, I actually don't know mainly what people does. I end up like know about athletes and team through the athletes. Maybe my student fight or have to fight, so I have to get information. Same things I say before. As a general, you have to get information. But I have a huge respect for coaches who, you know, I think they have a coach who try to access resources and try to, because I'm a coach, I know how hard it is. You try to compete. Now we have Gay Sanita fighting against a girl, Babe. She's in City Kickboxing.
Baby Nansen,
You know, so Baby Nansen is a very good fighter, and she have on the back like a huge team, like one of the best team in the world, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if you see, you know, Izzy there. Like it's just one of those
100%.
things. Yeah.
So I have a huge respect for coaches who they try to compete on that level, and they are not a huge team. They are Jacinta is coming from a small team and like try to compete on that level, same as us, you know. And I want to say, right, it's very important. We try to prepare our fighters in the best way we can, right?
Yeah.
Of course, if you have resources, everything is more easy and more accessible. And think about the amount of work put in now as a coaches, you know. They may have City Kickboxing, like how many? 10 coaches? 20? Maybe?
Yep.
Okay, they have like people who hold pads for specific fighters in a specific way. Like we are here grinding our way to compete with, and one day, one thing's I'm sure, MMA FFT is gonna be the City Kickboxing in Australia. We're gonna have like that level, and we're already doing like if you come to the sparring here and you see the level of the fighters in the room on Sunday, you have Oceania champion, world champion, 2-time world champion, ranked number 1, belt super fight, XFC belt, and Alfred demolition belt. Like it's like the level is insane. Yeah. And now, what is about? Okay, business is business, but you have to have ethic, right? Like that's what I say. Like for example, I start working with Alfred, right? And shout out to the SBG also, an amazing team. Their coach is an amazing person, very chill, very relaxed, very very smart, in a sports way, and as a person, you can see when someone have experience and takes things different approach. No, Alfred came here, started working with us, evolving his game, and he's just an amazing asset for the team. For me, when someone starts working with my team, like, and it's also in another team, like, we are in 223. We are pretty open-minded about everything.
Yeah.
And for me, someone can represent more than one person.
Yeah.
And even more with someone like Alfred. Alfred have always been there to support the team. I've seen all of these things, because if I give it to you, you have to give back. And sometimes you don't have to give back direct to me, but give to the people who have helped you, also your teammates, right? And he's always there. He came and helped Anthony when he had the super fight title. I was away. I was in Vegas for UFC and Dana White Contender Series. And he was there pushing at the end Anthony to get the last 100 grams out. He was in shutdown also there. And, I'm going to always help a guy like this.
Yeah. It's, because I came out of like a very traditional martial arts background with the whole, when I was doing Kung Fu and things like that, like the mindset was it was like stuck in the old days where it's like style versus style, right? And you can't go out to explore and all those sorts of things. And that was part of the reason why I ended up leaving, is because, here I am like trying to go through all these other different avenues and learn all these new skills and apply these new things. It was just, it became a bit of a conflict, where it was like, okay, this place is my home. Yeah. But then now it's like your parents are telling you, okay, if you want to go and travel and go and explore, you can't come home. Like, that's basically what happened for me. Yeah. And so as a result of that, like, I'm very big on the idea that, loyalty is important, right? But loyalty, I think people take the wrong approach to loyalty. Yeah. Right? Loyalty is in your actions, in terms of like, how do you respect somebody? Exactly. How do you treat somebody? Exactly. But, I think when you start thinking about loyalty as like, there's only this way and that's it. That's not loyalty anymore. That's ideology. Right, that's become, you're locked into this specific way of thinking. Loyalty comes with ethic. No, you know how many, like, like, how many fighters are contact me daily? Yeah. Professional, amateur fighters with teams, etc. They contact me. They want to work with me. They want to prepare fights with me, etc. Like, people think I open my door to everyone. I open my door. I let everyone to see what we're doing, but like, I always say like this, you can see when someone is a product of MMA FFT. You can see the style, you can see the switching stance, you can see changing the game constantly and all of this. And sometimes as a coach, it's so much harder to, when someone is already established as a fighter, to change things, because I have my view of the sport, which can be different of other people's view. And you can see, let's be honest, you can see when a gym fights, and you can already many times, if it's not like a fighter with a specific asset and talent, you can see pretty much the way they fight, right? And it's very hard, and I have helped in the past many fighters. I've helped, and I didn't even ask any credit, like people who have won belts professionally in the Australian scene, and I don't do that for the credit. Like, for me, specific one fighter I was very proud of. He won. He came to me in a very bad spot mentally and in terms of record. And we put in a work together, not only in terms of skills, because he have an amazing coaching team behind already. He have like some of the best striking coach and MMA coach around, but sometimes you need like that mental boost, and you need some fresh air and loyalty. For example, he have always acted in the right way. He spoke with his coach. I say, I want to train with him. I want to, I don't know why I feel like comfortable, and I want to train with him and get better if I can. And that's like, you can have ethic, and also like everyone have to understand, like, even when you're in relationship, if you have a partner and or you have your mom and dad, and have to be some sort of balance, and you say, okay, I'm gonna go there. If you're not 18, I'm gonna go there, and I'm going, I want to try. And a good coach will try to evolve with his athlete, because it's not like
I'm dangerous because of one reason, because I want to learn and I want to learn every day.
Yeah.
Like I don't care where it's come from. Can be someone under me, can be someone up to me.
Yeah.
Like I want to know if I see something working, why it's working, in what moment of the round I've worked at, what the guys say. I'm learning. That people don't understand. Like I watch and I get all the data of everything I need.
Yeah.
And where you have to be really selective as a coach is cut off the bullshit and the things actually. A lot of people invest time, but they don't need it. You know, and that's where it's very important to understand. Like so much time. When, for example, I didn't have a coach, I've lost so much time to do things I didn't need it. You know, and that's in my formation. Like I could never been 18 like Hamza. You know, because he is given a package of successful skills and assets where it's like 12 years behind that of like no, okay, we keep that. No, we keep that. Yeah. So what they have, but still an athlete is gonna question, you know, and he's gonna make mistake on himself. Sometimes you have to, in some things you have to do your best to avoid him to do mistakes because they can cost him a contract in UFC, you know. But sometimes I think
people also need
to, what you can do.
They have to learn those mistakes for themselves as well.
Yeah.
You know, like there's sometimes it's like, you know, no matter what you say, it's just like when your parent, like if I was to listen to my parents at some points in my life, like I wouldn't do anything. I'd just be sitting at home all day, right? Like, so this is the thing.
That's why your parents have to be open to listen to.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And
That's where it's like, you know, and I think we're seeing that, you know, like as an example, you know, the Eagle MMA team and Johnny Benavides with BBMA, you know, like they're both working together to try and get the best outcome for their fighters.
Yeah.
Right. We're seeing that with heaps of different teams, and I think, you know, that's only going to lead to the level getting higher. You know, one of the things that I always, you know, when I talk about these layers, it's like if you're not getting a high level reaction, well, you can't give a high level counter. Like it's simple. If it just ends at the first layer, right? And also it's very important. Like, so that's very interesting. You know, when things going good, that's where you have to be most careful. Yeah. Okay. I've been there a million of times. I've been there in the position where you are succeeding and you feel like nothing can touch you and the downfall is there behind. And this is why now, whenever I succeed, I keep always one foot ready. You know, I don't let myself to get comfortable at all. Yeah. Because, well, when things are bright, people get attracted and people want to see what it is. And sometimes as a coach, as a team, you know how many fighters and opportunity I have like to have people working with the team which doesn't fit the energy, and I made sure to them to not being able to be here, you know, because sometimes you cannot be direct, you know, you have to learn through Sun Tzu also, sometimes to be political, you know, you cannot always like face to face go, it's not like that. Sometimes you also, when the energy is in one way and is very strong, people who have different energy and they come maybe to train, they're going to feel uncomfortable. Yeah, it's a clash. You know, because how many people, you know, fighters, not many fighters like hard work. Yeah. Okay. It's like, there's an ego element too, right?
Oh, but I have like a lot of life experience to see, to have the ability to see things happen, not because I'm a magician, as I say sometimes to my post, it's just because like I've been there multiple times. I have the data to recognize these things. Okay, it's gonna happen in a sort of way. Did you do the right things to get the result? No. So, okay, do a lot and do the best for you is completely different things. You know, which is nothing bad at all.
Yeah.
It's nothing bad. Yeah. Like people have to understand, and as an amateur, do the mistakes you feel to do. Yeah. Because they're gonna lead you somewhere. If I lost, you can turn it in a lesson. And you can grow so much from there. Well, that's you're gonna become a different and most dangerous fighter after. Yeah. You know, more dangerous fight.
I think we're gonna wrap this up very shortly, but I just want to make this one last point because I think this is a very important thing in terms of mindset for when people lose. And I'm I can talk about this because I've lost plenty in my life, right? But if you come away from that loss, and I've told this story multiple times in terms of like when I won my first pancreation fight, and I always had it in my head, I can win. I don't need to change anything.
Yeah.
Right. And so I always say this set back my martial arts development about 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, just from this having this ego that was unfounded. Right. So the best way that you can approach every fight, every loss, and how you should be thinking about it is, rather than looking at it and going, oh, you know, maybe my opponent was a bit heavier than me, or they've been training jiu-jitsu since they were a kid, or whatever the case may be. It is the only question you need to ask yourself is, what is the technical deficiency that I have that led to this scenario unfolding? Yeah. Because, as an example, if you get stuck on bottom, right, and you're stuck on bottom, there is something technically deficient that in what you're doing, which is leading to not getting back up. Whether it's like, you know, there might be in mountain, you're trying to mitigate damage and you're just holding on, right? Or it might be that you're pummeling the wrong underhook in half guard.
Yes.
Right? So for any athlete whose focus is on improving, and this applies to, you know, any martial arts, whether it's a striking martial art or a jiu-jitsu martial art. I'll use jiu-jitsu as an example, but a lot of the times, you know, people will come in and they, you know, when it comes to rolling, they'll just go, let's just roll. Like I will always ask people, okay, what position do you want to work? Yeah. And then some people will just say to me, okay, let's just roll. And it's like, but then these same people might be the ones that ask me after, you know, how can I get better? Yeah. Right? But it's like you had no plan when it came to your rolls. You
very, very interesting, Johnny. Very, very interesting this point, because also on the opposite end, I've seen many fighters doing things who they make them win the game and win them always. And they almost get bored to win in that way. But the champion, and look, Alex Volkanovski, okay? Yeah. He does not many things. He does few things, and constantly and on the top of the level.
Yeah, exceptional.
Right? Sometimes you have to accept, like, what I'm doing, I'm winning.
Yeah.
And some people, they just want to change because he's excited to change, you know?
Yeah.
Don't. Yeah. You know, just stay, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes that's is a research as a fighter, you know, as a human. We need more. But sometimes you have to recognize what's the best for you. And on this point, I want to say something. You know, it's many way to approach the sport. I really am a strong believer, and you know, I leave that to the reality on how the sport is evolving. You know, we have of course, in a camp we have the head coach, and we have like people who are that's different now. People who are specialized in specific discipline, but one thing, for example, you know, Johnny, you hold pads sometimes, and you like the striking, you have a lot of experience, but you're an MMA fighter. And also, doesn't matter if you have fight or no, you understand the sport. Like, on the pads, how we do, simulate a shot, pose, an uppercut when someone tries to come in, or push you on the fence, like, you know, and you see that more in MMA striking coaches, which I'm a big fan of, like people who does striking
and mixing
for MMA, because come on, like you cannot teach someone to land a front kick and never like play like you're gonna try to take him down, because like that's what someone's gonna do when you just gonna try to strike against him. He's gonna take you down, and watch the game and like analyze the things, analyze the dynamic, the opponent, and you simulate what he's gonna do, because stand and bang, good luck, you know. It's you're gonna get taken down probably, you know, 90% of the time. So that's what's my thoughts about that, because sometimes get twisted, you know. Sometimes I need to improve my striking, because and the guys start working how it's possible. Like look the data now. We winning by dominance, okay, and we was one period of the time we was taking people down, like dominating, and people say, well, that's how we do. Now we winning most of the fight by knockout and TKO, and now we are striker. And after one period, Orson and all of these win by submission. Tito. Well, we are grappler. No, we are MMA fighter. And that's where you should work on. Be dangerous in any aspect, because how many times you've seen an amazing grappler get submitted by a guy who shouldn't have that level of grappling, because was able to mix or use the level, change the fear of the takedown to open your shots. In my opinion, I've give out something very important out there. That's the way people should work, with ability to put all the things together and use them. You know, you've seen in the Hamza fight.
Yeah.
If you are passionate and about the sport and you want to watch that fight, you've seen multiple games. You don't see like a guy who comes in, land a high kick.
You got to show it all.
You've seen like so much work there, and MMA. That's MMA of an 18 years old kid, you know, who just turned 18. You know.
Yeah. All right. I think that's a great way to end this podcast. And thanks for coming on again.
Thank you so much, John.
And we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah. Thank you.